I just started like bawling, you know, and I'm like alone in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru or parking lot, like with my breakfast burritos. And like, even if I wanted to back out or take it back, I couldn't. And I was just like, this is like, it didn't hit me until that moment.
When you've gone through this process of vetting, 40, 50 companies, and you finally say PestCo is that company, what is it about PestCo, and what were some of the characteristics of the leaders that you were like, I know that there will be a smooth transition because they know how we do things and I see how they do things and I trust them? Like, what were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Well, you never know until you're like truly in bed with someone that you really know them. And so for me, a lot of it was just...
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Evan Ritchie and Cameron Bodden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control, stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
What's going on? Today is a special day and it's a special episode. I am with, as always, my co-host, Cameron Bodden. And the reason I say it's a special day is Cameron, for the last few months has been going through a special event. And just this last week, it had come to fruition. So, Cameron, you have just merged with PestCo. How do you feel? That was the first question I wanted to ask right at the top. How do you feel?
Dude, it never felt real throughout the whole process. And we talked a little bit about it, we talked a lot about it, but like throughout the process, they could back out at pretty much any time. And so I just always had my mindset like, this isn't happening. Even until like the day before, the 2 hours before, that morning of, I didn't even know if it was going to close. When we got on the closing call, so when you do a transaction like this, and I didn't know it, you think of this, at least in my mind, I had this vision of we'd be in a conference room and people are signing papers. Like, it's not like that. You sign a bunch of documents like 3 days leading up to it.
Yeah.
But then there's the closing call. So the buyer's counsel's on there, the seller's counsel, the finance company, if they're using financing.
So it's a big conference call.
Yeah, there's I screenshot it. I think there's like 12 or 13 people on the call. Gosh. And they go one by one. Hey, buyer's counsel, do you have everything? And they had like some check. I felt like I was a pilot going through a checklist because they'd be like, yep, we have this form, that form, good to sign off. And then they'd be like, seller's counsel, do you have this? And then they'd go through like their, whatever the checklist is of these forms. And they'd say like, good to go. And then it's like, Cameron, do you give permit? Like, Cameron, are you good to go? And I was just like, oh, like.
Yeah. And that's after 4 months of creating those documents.
6 months.
6 months. Okay.
Well, we started in April. Yeah. So from start to finish, it was, 6 months, dude, like just crazy. We can get into that. But
I'm gonna go
like,
through
how do I
these
feel? Like, it wasn't until, and it was funny because on the call right before we started going through everyone, they're like, hey, looks like we might need a push till tomorrow. We don't know where the carrier is.
This is this week.
This is on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Which we could talk about that too, because they, Monday night, we have our Tuesday meeting, and literally I was like, they're like, hey, you don't have to get up tomorrow and present because you haven't got your money yet. And it is unusual to get up and like make the announcement, but we're telling you like we're in, nothing could happen. And I'm like, I'm putting a lot of trust in you guys, man. I get up and I tell my company that I'm merging with you guys and I haven't even got my money yet. And like, you just want me to trust you? They're like, it's up to you. But like, everyone's flown into town. We have the celebration dinner that night. There's just too much. And so anyways, we're on that call and they're like, we don't know where the carrier is. We might have to push till tomorrow. So this is Wednesday morning.
This is the final documents. Like, your money's coming by pigeon. Like, what is this? Dude, this is the Hurricane Helene, right?
You know what's funny? I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around, but the thing that held it up is our landlords. And I'm going to throw them under the bus because they're little.
I say that's ironic.
Punks, dude. They felt like they were entitled to a portion of the sales price. And so they would not transfer, liability from my name to their name, and they wanted to fight it. It cost me another probably 20 grand in lawyer fees to have my lawyer get on the call with them for the past 2 weeks, going back and forth, back and forth. And so that was literally like the last thing that was being held up. And so one of the last documents is getting the document over from the landlord signing off. And so we're sitting there on the call, and, you know, it didn't have, like, it had to be submitted by a certain time for the wire. And so they're sitting there saying, like, we might have to push till tomorrow. So Dan, one of the top guys in PestCo, he's like, why don't we call him and see where he's at? And so, like, someone hops off and calls him, and he gets back on. They're like, it just arrived. And they're like, all right. And then they start going through the checklist, right? And again, I really didn't know that morning. I had an appointment with my mechanic on the helicopter. So I was out at Falcon Field, like literally talking to him, and I left, and we had another meeting that was scheduled for like 10 o'clock. And so, like, I'm driving, I'm starving. So I'm like, I'm going to go through the Chick-fil-A drive-through. So I'm literally in the Chick-fil-A drive-through, and they're going, and now it's like, okay, we're on. You know, I just got my breakfast burrito, and like,
you're like, great.
I'm like, all right.
Like, camera, turn your video on.
I pull into the parking spot, and they're like, you know, they go through the checklist that I just said, and then they ask Cameron, like, hey, like, are you good? And I'm like, I changed my mind, guys. I'm not in, just to joke with them. And Jane, she's one of the buyer's counsel lawyers. She's like, too late, like, just joking, you know. And they're like, all right. So I was like, no, just kidding. Like, let's go, you know. And then Dan, and then they're like, last but not least, like, PestCo, are you good to sign off? And Dan was like, you know, PestCo's good to go. And then, like, Jan kind of like summed it all up. Okay, like, on behalf of, you know, blah, 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 we're now closed. Congratulations. And like, dude, so I just started like bawling, because I was like at that moment, like, it just hit me like crazy. You know, and I'm like alone in the Chick-fil-A drive-through or parking lot, like, with my breakfast burritos. And like, even if I wanted to back out or take it back, I couldn't. And I was just like, this is like, it didn't hit me until that moment.
And this, what day was this?
Wednesday.
So this week. So we're filming, today is October 4th.
Yeah.
So this was October 2nd.
Yep.
And PestCo had given the announcement here at Great Mango on October 1st.
Yeah.
So you were in this lull of 24 to 48 hours of, I've told everyone that we're merging. Everyone started asking questions, excitement started going, and then you were still in this weird lull, and then all of a sudden they get on that phone call, everything resolved, and you merged.
Yeah, and that's just how much I trust PestCo, you know, and that's the message I want to make sure that everyone understands, especially, you know, our coworkers here at Green Mango. Is like, I've vetted over probably 40 or 50 companies. Yeah. And PestCo felt right, you know, for many different reasons. It wasn't just because of the, you know, the dollar amount, but I just felt like, you know, I met them 2 years ago when I almost, you know, when we started looking into selling Green Mango. And, you know, so I felt like it was right. But the other, you know, so it's like, okay, I'm in this lull. I didn't get my money till yesterday morning. So then it's like, you're waiting at, you know, even longer for the wire to come in. So it's like, it was almost like 48 hours. And even, another guy from PestCo's team, Mac, you know, or Tim calls me, you know, at the end of the day, and he's like, hey, I learned in PE that you never called the seller and wish him congratulations until he has the money, you know? And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And he's like, just want you to know, like, it's sent to you. And so, like, finally got it. And it was just, I don't know, it was just like crazy.
Middle of the night, like Thursday morning, or is this like?
It was like, well, my banker texted me at 10 a.m. Hey, like, funds hit. It's in your account. And I just looked at it. I was like, dang, this is crazy.
Surreal. So let's talk about that. You know, we have this word premium behind us, and I feel like people will never truly understand why we have it up there. And we can say, hey, we're a premium company, but we're premium in everything that we've done, and you've always demanded premium from yourself, the people, partners. And when you've gone through this process of vetting, you know, 40, 50 companies, and you finally say PestCo is that company, what is it about PestCo, and what were some of the characteristics of the leaders that you were like, I know that there will be a smooth transition because they know how we do things, and I see how they do things, and I trust them? Like, what were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Well, you never know until you're like truly in bed with
Yeah.
someone that you really know them. And so for me, a lot of it was just a feel thing, you know, obviously praying about it. But I'm trying to remember the exact month. It was probably around May or June. Their whole team flew into town and we met like all day long and went through, can't remember which documents we went through, but whatever it was, like we met with the team all day long, went to dinner that night, and it's the picture that I showed in the Tuesday meeting with all the technicians and office staff. And like after that night, I was like, it just feels right. And so obviously they had the background of doing 20 plus roll-ups. They have the capital to back them. And so I knew Green Mango was financially set. I felt good about the people. Everything that they were promising me was right. You know, we were negotiating deal points on like what they could or couldn't do once they had the company, like up until like really the day before. And so it's not like I like we weren't able to like nail down exactly every single thing. You know, one of the things that we argued about for a long time was pay, you know, so there's a clause in there that we had originally to where like they can't adjust pay whatsoever. Like whatever, I forget the legal term that it is. And what they came back with is like, hey, we'd be fools to come into this business and lower people's pay. We understand that. Like we just paid a lot of money for this company. Why would we want to come in and, you know, pay is the most sensitive thing that, you know, pisses people off immediately. We wouldn't want to do that. But here's why we want to fight to be able to change it and have that option. And that is if we go into a recession and it's, you know, the matter of saving the business or not because, you know, everything's so expensive or whatever it might be, like we need to be able to run our business the way that we need to run it. And as much as that was like hard to hear is like, well, would I rather have you cut pay and maybe 10-20% of people quit, or would I rather like have this contingency in there where you have to pay the same amount and then the business goes under because you can't afford to pay people. So I gave on that, but I love their argument of, hey, I have to adjust, but also I know that changing people's pay is like the worst thing we could do, and just have our backs that we're going to do what's right and make sure that, you know, we're going to take care of your people.
Yeah. So they basically asked, allow us to do what you would do if that situation happened.
Yeah.
Which I love. So again, you've gone through a lot of vetting, you meet PestCo, the leadership team comes out, you're interacting with them. What were some of the things that got you excited about the merger, that they said, hey, look, we've done this 20 times. Here are some stats about, you know, the average manager, you know, growing in pay and also in promotion. Like what were some of the things that got you excited for the people here at Green Mango?
Yeah. So one of the things that all businesses suffer with, right, is that like, as long as I'm here, you can't take my job.
Correct.
As long as Joe's there, a field manager can't take Joe's job.
Yeah.
And you're kind of stuck. Like you can be in line, but as long as Joe doesn't mess up, we're not firing Joe. You know what I mean? So with bigger, they're the 15th largest company in the U.S.
Wow.
I think the original stat that they gave me when I met with them was over 750 employees.
Yeah.
And then when we merged, they had over 900. Like, think that's a lot of employees. That's a lot of leadership needed. So I feel like if our ceiling was right here for leadership that can travel, like now it just got that much, greater for people, which I loved. And then, little things like, and it's funny, when I came in here, everyone was cheering and so excited that there was, I think, 3 or 4 more days of paid holidays that they're giving us. Do you know the exact day? Is it 3 or 4?
It's 4. Yeah.
4. So like 4 days, that's not a lot, but like when I heard that, I was like, that's really expensive to the company. There's a reason why we didn't offer it, but they came in and were like, hey, you get 4 days of paid holiday, and because we're a bigger company, like our benefits are better than yours. And
it's the timing of those holidays, like Christmas and New Year's, that when people don't get that $100 to $150 for that pay period around that time, things get tight.
Yeah.
So
like those were the little things that like small, but I'm like, it's like I'm excited, and I tried to not get too held up, like, am I excited for me or am I excited for them? And so those were the little things where I felt like one, they're going to be financially backed. Two, they're going to get better benefits, which I feel like is a huge driver why people work at companies, right? Like paid time off, benefits, and then the hourly wage needs to be there. And they're committed to continue to, pay. There might be some more KPIs in place to hit their pay or like, whatever, but it's for the health of the business. And that's what people need to understand. At the end of the day, they want to run a successful company. They have to hit their marks. And, they might have to tighten up just like we did the past 2 years. And look how much better we are as a company for tightening up.
I love it. So the most consistent question I was asked by not people here, but people like mutual friends, family that knows you is when anyone Googles a merger and acquisition, right? You get a variety of, like, sometimes companies buy a couple percent, sometimes they buy the company outright, sometimes the founder stays on, full time. Let's talk a little bit about your agreement in the merger, because I love what you did, and it helped people solidify in their mind that you're invested in this now more than ever because of your decision to merge.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you a little bit and what stepping down as CEO means and your role in Green Mango and its growth.
Yeah. So one of the options that they gave me was to roll a portion of my equity or money that I'm receiving from the sell into like the next run. So the private equity firms, like usually there are 5-year shelf life on these. Yeah. And, we've been ingrained in this the past year, or probably a couple of years, just because I've been in it, but it's so cool. Like once you get to learn how, like these guys operate, and that is like the shelf life is 5 years. They're 3 years into a 5-year shelf life of their fund. And their goal is to flip it. Hopefully, they could extend that fund longer, but if they're doing their job right, it's like they flip it in a couple more years, but they try and get up to $200 to $400 million in revenue. And then they flip it to the next PE group who has a different level of expertise from, like, so let's say they get it up to 400 million. Then they, that company takes it to 600 or 700 million. And then they flip it one more time. And that company takes the portfolio from 7 to $1 billion. And that's when most companies go public. Wow. So like, it's cool to see, like, so we're down here on this little, cute level of, growing our company to $24 million. And then it's like, I feel like I'm in over my head. And that's how I felt a lot the past year, which was a huge driver of why I finally decided, like, hey, I think it's time, we flip it to them. And then these guys are like, hey, we can take this to 400, but our level of expertise just isn't what it takes to get to 6 or 7. And it's just, they keep climbing. And that's what's cool. And again, I'll plug in, consulting and mentorship. Yeah. Everyone is trying to be around someone that's, walk the path that they want to walk. And it's so important if you want to do that to find someone around there. And that's what they're doing. That's what I try to do with them. And I don't know, it's going to be fun to watch. So I rolled that equity and I'm invested. And that's why I tell people, it's not like I don't care about Green Mango's success anymore. Like, I'm more invested now more than ever to make sure not only Green Mango is successful, but PestCo as well. And so I'm on as a consultant with them to talk about all the things that we've done that have made us who we are. And if we can help implement that across 20 other companies, like, it's helping my bottom line so much more.
So it sounds like, and I know you might know the exact number because they've done 20, now 21 acquisitions.
So I'm number 20.
Number 20, okay. Yeah. So I'm sure there's 1 to a couple partners in each. So it sounds like you're now amongst this, like, maybe 20 to 30 people of founders that have had successful mergers. And they get to, one, take the machines that you guys have built, but also pick your guys' brain and see what can work in a micro level elsewhere and what a macro level in terms of, like, the whole company as a whole. One thing that really stuck out to me, I don't think I told you this, but and in regards to PestCo and where I felt secure in my own mind that these were some good people, is the president, Dave, was in. They broke us up into groups of 3, and I went into the conference room, and Antonio, our Tucson branch manager, one of the first questions he said is like, hey, what are your thoughts on Tucson and helping it grow and further? What's your plan for Tucson? And Dave said, well, what do you think we should do? He's like, grow it. He's like, let's do it. Yeah. And I just loved that throughout the entire day. I didn't see any of them say, hey guys, like, yeah, this is just what it's going to be. And there was a lot of questions that went their way of like, well, hey, is our pay changing? And he's like, do you guys want to make more money? It's like, yeah. So we're going to find ways for you guys to make more money, but we're not going to find ways to take money.
Yeah.
People are like, okay, cool. So that, I don't know if you saw that in the vetting process in terms of their humility in regards to, hey, we do a few things very well, but we don't have all the answers for everything.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty cool that these guys could come in as who they are and, listen to the people and say, well, yeah, we look forward to meeting with you and seeing what you would want to do for that situation.
Yeah.
Quick pivot. Okay. If you go to your social media, and I get emotional. I love seeing it, but like all the family stuff, Alyssa, all that, obviously she's been there day one. Mm-hmm. However, during this 4 months, like, did she in the first couple weeks just think this was another of the 40 to 50 companies, or did she sense that you were like, hey, I think these people are the people? And what did they think about, pretty much, or the 6-month process? What did they think about it, and how did they take it as you progressively got more certain in that you wanted to merge?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the right mindset that I had through it all, but like, again, I just kept telling myself, because I didn't want to get too excited, that it just wasn't happening. And so like, we wouldn't really talk about it too much at home, because I was just like, it's probably not going to happen. She'd be like, well, what does this mean if that? It's like, it's probably not going to happen, so we don't even need to think about it.
That's what you would say to me too. I'm like, all right, fine. But do this and this, but it'll probably amount to nothing. I'm like, all right, sounds good.
So, but yeah, April through, I need to go, one great thing that I'd encourage a lot of people to do, like, is like keep a journal, even if it's once a month.
Yeah. Keep
a journal with where you're at with your life, from, finances to business to family, relationships. And like, so I need to go back and review these dates, but I want to say up until August or September is when I finally I was at a pivotal point, because I was going to partner with Tommy at A1.
Yeah.
And
that was a totally different plan.
That was another 5 years, double down,
yeah.
Like more stress than ever. And it just kind of, so like around that time, I just finally decided, like, because they were wanting to put these huge contingents on me, like, hey, you've kind of treated us like, the step, or like the side chick or whatever you want to call it. Like, we need a commitment now that if we're gonna like really dive into this due diligence, because like April till like June was like they're going through some things. Hey, do your numbers match what you're saying? Are your EBITDA this? But then like the due diligence, when they actually hire the company, they spent, I don't know how much I can share, not sir, but they spent a ton of money on the due diligence. And right before they did that, they're like, listen, we need you to sign this, which pretty much takes it off the market and promises us that like you're not going anywhere else. And I think I can share this, is that if I backed out, they would have charged me $1.5 million. And I was just like, I'm not agreeing to that. I won't. And so they took it off, and we went, but I did say like, hey, I'm yours if it works. Like, I'm not backing out. I hired my lawyer, and he was $1,700 an hour. And this is the thing why I love premium. I had some lawyers saying, hey, we can get this contract done for 150 to 200 grand. I had other buddies that had exited their companies, and they were telling me, hey, this was my lawyer. He was great. Use him. And he told me, hey, it's going to be 200 grand. My guy's like, hey, it's going to be north of 500 grand. And I was like, oh, like, what's the difference? He's like, we won't mess, like, you won't, if you do need us in the future, he's like, you'll know you like paid the right price to make sure that you're secured. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm going premium, man. I hired this mother trucker. He's $1,700 an hour. Everyone else was like $500, $600 an hour.
Quick phone calls and hang out.
Oh, dude, I'm like,
he's like, how's your day? You're like, no.
No, we're getting down to business, man. So anyways, I don't know what you're asking, but
yeah, I have something that you're segue into like this whole topipic of like the family.
Oh, that we didn't know. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I just felt like, hey, I want to go with PestCo because it means that it's just a complete, and that's why I negotiated my deal with him. I could have stayed on and I could have been paid a higher rate than I am as a consultant and then, whatever. But Like I wanted to, get that stress off me. I wanted the pressure off. I wanted to spend more time with my family. And it was just solidified this past month. I literally took my family, my kids, the people around me, James, probably you, like to the breaking point because like my focus, it was probably like a good but bad idea. I like going out of town a lot because like it kind of takes me out of like, the day-to-day distractions. But also like I was in Lake Powell the week before the close and I literally sat in the room. I have pictures we can post on here. I'll send them to Lexi. Like I'm in the room 9 hours a day, just on phone calls back to back. And my family's just like Dad, they don't understand because it's like, I'm selling green mango, but next week, I promise I won't have my phone. But Ivory's like literally walking in, like crying, begging me to go on the jet ski ride with her. And it's like, how do you explain that to them? But that was the thing where I just was solidifying like, okay, I'm almost done and I don't have to be like attached to my phone. And I think it happened for a reason. But it was like, dude, it was hard. Like, like you're over here holding down the fort in the business, making sure everyone's good. James, our CFO, is like answering a bazillion questions every single day. Like they literally look at like this locker had a price tag on it. Like, oh, what's this? What's this? What's the podcast equipment? How much is it? I'm asking Lexi, please break down the podcast equipment, how much it is. It was just like, it's mind blowing how much they go through due diligence.
Yeah. And I know that there's going to be probably a few different maybe episodes in terms of getting all this information out as more things come up, but you've kind of set this up for the next question. But I feel like a lot of people have come your direction in terms of social media, one, because of Lexi, of course. But the demographic of people who have come your way are people that are in small business and they own small businesses. And you've made a post or two about, hey, this is like just some things I've learned in business in 14 years. But while it's fresh on your mind, if you could answer a few of the questions that have probably already come your way, but if they're like, Cameron, regardless of when I want to, what should I start doing now to avoid the headaches that you had during the quality of earnings? What are some of the things that you would tell them to start doing now, regardless if they want to sell or not, that would set them up for success for a potential merger?
If you're over $5 million, I'd spend the money on audited financials. I'd 100% make sure that your books are completely clean. You have a great accounting team. Like that's number one. Number two, Height Farm has been great, but Height Farm made this situation so difficult because we had
clear on that.
So Height Farm's our parent company that we had a lot of shared resources through. The books were so messy. It would be like, so for example, David, our fleet manager, right? He works for Green Mango. He works for Coconut. He did a little bit of stuff for Agave, but he's under Green Mango's payroll. And so like breaking apart like HR, our accounting team, our marketing team, explaining to them what Height Farm is versus what Height Farm the agency is. So Height Farm's our shared resources for accounting and HR. The agency's our marketing department. And then, each company pays their portion to that essentially company and then pays them. And so really it's a business, but we just take care of our own companies. But unwinding all that, it was very difficult and it made the books very, hard to understand. And so I know a lot of business owners, mix a lot of personal funds in there. And like, it's like, yeah, I get the write-offs and that, but just know like it's going to come with headache. They look at the trailing 12 months of expenses. I had to disclose anything that I put on the business. I was over $50,000, sometimes $25,000 disclosing stuff. And it's not like it was right or wrong, but again, it was one more, probably half a day of James going back through, making sure that everything's good to go. So like, make sure you have audited financials, your books are clean, you're not mixing too much personal, like get your write-offs and take the advantages that you can as an entrepreneur. But make sure that it gets clean and crisp and you don't have these like funds that are paying for some people put their house as the office on there, and I could only imagine how weird that is on the books. So,
or they put siblings on it just to
payroll. Oh, like let me help you out with payroll benefits. We had benefits intermingled between each other. Like there was, I didn't tell you this, but there was like 3 sapphire machines on the green mango line and 2 brush pros, and
like 2020.
I'm like, I don't know how this happens, but again, as small business owners, we were just like, hey, whoever will approve us, like we need this equipment, we're growing, like throw it on the green mango line, throw it on the coconut line, throw it on this. And that's why I was calling you. I'm like, hey, like your car somehow got put under the green mango line, your wife's car, like we gotta weed this out. And so like the more you can keep things separate and just a business, the cleaner your books will be, the easier your life will be.
Okay. And then if I could just share a few of the headaches, like, and then maybe you could speak to them a little bit as well, but receipts. It's a lot for me to say that, given my
Evan's the worst receiver.
I'm not like, hey, it's Raising Cane's, it's $80, I got it for the team. They're like, what'd you get? I'm like, chicken.
They're
like, where's the receipt? I'm like, this is dumb, but
it just goes back to clean books and how do you organize it, and how are you, one argument that, not argument, but one thing that could adjust our EBITDA margins big time was the way that we put on our books our bait stations. So the way in which we sell or rent our bait stations, we do not sell them, we rent them, dictates how James, puts them on our books. And that adjusted EBITDA, depending on how we accounted it versus how they accounted it, by almost $500,000.
In the positive for you, did you get that? No?
Yeah. So but that's the thing, right? So when you're talking about $500,000 times a multiple, it could be millions of dollars, and you could miss that. And that's why I talk about clean books, because like there's an art to having clean books. Making sure that everything's categorized correctly, being written off the correct way. Just all like it's crazy what goes into it. I'd love to do like a segment. Lexi and I have talked about you doing some kind of training course or whatever it might be. But I mean, breaking down, because I'd be lying if I sat here and said like I understood it perfectly. But it'd be great to do something with James as our CFO to be like, hey, when I say clean books, like I'm going like, entry level on it. Like he could dive into it by what you mean and give like a TED talk on it.
Yeah. Just like little things, I don't know if you would care to speak to that maybe I was a part of and seeing through, but while you're small, get down all your passwords for all your software and who's on your software, and make sure that if a guy was fired 2 years ago that he's not in your CRM. Make sure you
saw the email list of like 30 people. Like, hey, these emails are subject to cybersecurity. Yep. I'm reading through it. I'm like, that guy hasn't worked for us for feels like 14 years.
Yep. And I'd say just like passwords and software, and making sure that you're admin on everything, and being careful on who you log over domain access to, and admin on your Google and your advertisement accounts, like all of that, right? So those are all little things. But the next question I wanted to ask you, and again, I know that we can do a few things on this, but I was curious that you don't seem to be a person of regrets, or even if you think of it, you don't think on it too long, because you're like, I think you're just too rational in the sense that why dwell on it if I can't change it? However, I wrote down, what times or experiences do you reflect on that you wish you had savored more, enjoyed more, and what are you glad to be kind of done with now that you're stepping down? What have I reflected on? Yeah, like what are some things you're like, man, I wish I would have appreciated this more, and then what are some things you're like, I am so glad I don't have to like do that anymore?
Well, luckily because I have you, and I want to talk a little bit about that too sometime, not today. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But like, because I have managers, like I really don't do a lot of what I don't like to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what's been so hard about it. Like, this isn't work for me. Like I truly love what I do. What I'm excited to not necessarily do, but it's the unquantifiable pressure that comes with an entrepreneurship of, hey, payrolls, we don't have enough money for payroll. Like, and then I'm going into my savings account and paying payroll. And, a lot of times you don't see that money back for years, if not ever, because, you know, you think about, oh, we're short 50 grand, but your company only makes 20 grand a month. If it rebounds, like you're at least 3 months before it rebounds, let alone if some other mistake doesn't happen. So you feel like literally you're always trying to save it as an entrepreneur, but then you're always like, you got to take care of your baby, because that's the thing that continues to push back. So the money part, I'm so sick of people backstabbing me and trying to take my employees.
Yeah.
It's like, not that I don't care, come take them, but it's like, I don't have to deal with the pettiness. I've lost so many friends, and you know, like I've felt like a lot of relationships because, I guess rightfully so, like people are looking out for themselves. Like people backstab me so many times, and from like taking my employee standpoint. So like, I'm glad to be done with that. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, build off of that concept, because that was one of my questions. But I reflect on the phone, because I know I said it a little better in here. But
let me plug in this, because I want to talk about it. When you talk about reflection, one of my favorite things is coming to the office right now. Like the office, and this is, you know, my little tribute to you of like how great the culture is right now. You know, yeah, we have problems here there. I'm not going to act like everything's perfect, but like you come into the office, the culture's different. I can come joke around with the CSRs right now. I love the field managers. I don't know the technicians very well, but when I see them, they're happy. Like everyone's just so excited. And, you know, I think that was probably the first time I cried, the Tuesday meeting, right? Where it's the first time we've had the entire company together in 10 years. And there was over 150, like we didn't have enough
when he's talking.
Yeah, we didn't have enough room. Like this room is massive. It was overflown. Like, and I'm sitting there and Kathleen's up there reading the anniversaries and the birthdays. And that little punk, dude, she looks at me when everyone's just like, after like the third cheer, where like you could just feel like I felt like I was at the Super Bowl watching Tom Brady. Like the excitement in that room, the cheer. No one knows what's about to happen.
Too. I will say the last few monthlies, like that momentum has been building and building, and now we had probably 60 plus more people in there.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and after probably the third or fourth cheer of like excitement, and Kathleen knows what's going on, you know, and I'm sitting there, Alyssa's there, my dad's there, and like Kathleen like looks at me and winks, just like of like the proud mom wink, you know. And I was just like I'm like tingling, and I'm trying to hold it together because I'm about to go on stage in 5 minutes and like tell everyone what's going on. And I just like darted out the room. And
is that what that was?
Yeah, dude, because I didn't want to lose it right there.
Where the heck is he going?
I was losing it, bro. And I darted out. I went into my office and I cried for like 2 minutes. And I was just like, I had to pull like the non-emotional camera now of like, don't even go down there right now. Do not think about it. Like, and like I pulled it together, came back in, but it was like that was the first time I cried over this. So it was crazy. But again, like you are the one that helped hold the line, and that's what I talk about now. Is that like the culture and the systems and processes you can have in place, but if you don't have someone holding the line 100%, you're always gonna have a bad apple that ruins it. You've held the line, Joe's held the line, Gustavo's held the line, James Cook has held the line, Marcy's held the line, to where it's like the people that are here know that Green Mango does things differently. Yeah. And if you don't fit in, like you're either going to quit yourself or you're going to be asked to leave. And like now our culture is phenomenal. Like we finally made it. And when I was sitting there with Kathleen, it's like, finally, dude, like, oh, I'm sad. Like it's now here and I'm out. Like I'm kind of like, I'm out, you know,
how you've always been for 14
and like,
years.
it was just kind of, that's when it was like, shoot, like, but again, like happy that like I got it, you know, we got it there. Like we worked harder this past 18 months than I've worked, you know, probably the first, you know, as hard as I worked the first 3 years. And it was just really rewarding. But the thing that was really cool is I didn't know how everyone would react. Like I really didn't. I didn't know if people were going to be bitter, if people felt like I was, you know, hanging them to dry and, you know, all these different things. Yeah. And maybe people have talked to you, but at least to my face, right, that like everyone's so happy for me and excited consistent. And understand. And like I was like, that's friendship. Like that's the culture that we're talking about. They're not bitter. They have the trust in me that, you know, as much as I could vet, I vetted someone that I felt like was going to take care of them. And I tried to set them up. Like, it wasn't just about the money. It was about, like, Green Mango. Like, I literally feel like I just gave my like one of my kids away. And I'm saying, please take care of him. Like, please. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to pay me anything. Like, let me help you take care of this baby for the next, as long as it's here in Arizona. And like, I just feel like people felt that. And like, no one's like, even some people that, like, are on the edge, like, they were just happy for me. You know what I mean? And that meant so much to me.
Yeah, I think that was the like, even in the 3 days it's passed, that's been there's questions, but like it's not questions that there's anxiety behind it. It's like, hey, so like with this, like, do I use the same debit card? Like, little things like that, but people are excited. And I think that's what was confirmed to me by by PestCo. And I'm sure they kind of flatter everyone as they're exiting. However, they, like, the guy that is like my direct, Brian, as he was leaving, he said, Evan, like, we have not had a transition like this. And like, you guys clearly are doing something different. And he said, we look forward to learning from you guys too. So that was super cool. So maybe I won't circle back to that one topic, but we'll keep it.
So hold on before you go on, because it's like maybe the third thing that I tell business owners on top of making sure you're audited financials and books, right?
Yeah.
Is that like set people up to have success, like hire out. Don't be the guy that wears every single hat. I wouldn't be able to, have this consulting role like so hands off if I didn't have you, if we didn't have Joe, if we didn't have James, if we didn't have all the people like owning their department. And that's what's so powerful. And, intentionally since April, as I kind of knew this, it's like, hey, I'm going to back down even more so people aren't used to me. And so when I stand out there and I say, hey guys, the only thing that changes is when you ask people who owns Green Mango, like, it's not Cameron Bodden, it's PestCo. And people, like, because they don't have a direct interaction with me every single day, it's not like, oh crap, you know what I mean? And so I get it. When you're a small business owner, it's not like you can start hiring people out, but as soon as you can, like, start putting those people in place and empowering them to make the decision for that department. Because like, when you go to sell, it's all the people underneath that person, like that hopefully that manager is staying, right? And then like, nothing changes with most people. So the only person that really gets affected by this is you, because you work with all the other department managers. The only person that works with me is you. And we've made sure we're okay. But if that wasn't there, like, everyone would be freaking out because I'm not here, and now like they're just running around. But now it's like, cool, like, we just we don't see Cameron that much anyways. We don't meet with him one-on-one anyways, and I get it, everything's the same.
Quick side note, I think this is an important highlight because you brought up the principles that are important to maybe start now. Something they said that they appreciated that I said that you really like, I feel like you've more so taught me in the last few years. I don't think it's always been something that we've applied at Hype Farm, but I don't know why I was saying what I was saying, but I pretty much just said like, hey, if you guys ever feel like I'm a constraint, like, I am happy to, like, you guys, no hard feelings just because my ties towards Cameron, like, you guys owe me nothing. Just tell me and I'm out. I said what I pride myself most on here is that this company won't skip a beat. Like, we built a machine, and I don't hold on to anything that, maybe morale a little bit, but in terms of the actual production and the forecasting and the KPIs and the goals, you need to now, regardless of 5 million, 1 million, 500,000, or 10 million, you need to systemize your operations, your marketing, your frequently asked questions, and you need to pride yourself on not being the source of all the information and the how-to, and build a system that, regardless of your presence or absence, it is still not only functioning but growing. And they said that's what we've noticed about this leadership team here, is that they all seem, one, extremely competent, but two, they know the systems and policies that, like, just like we were talking before we started the podcast, like, Joe's like, well, that would be a Gustavo thing.
Yeah.
Gustavo's like, well, that would be an Evan thing, or that's a Marcy thing. Like, you go to Marcy for that. She has say.
But for the past 18 months, you've made sure
Yeah.
they had understood.
Yeah,
they
and you
understand
really
that.
helped me see that. Like, you gave me the autonomy to say, hey, I'm like, hey, these guys aren't being paid right, so we need to get them to the right pay. But then also, it's going to come with that, like, you own this department, and Marcy, you own billing, and you answer for billing. So, just a side note, that something they said that made it very intriguing to come to merge with Green Mango was that it didn't seem like there was going to be a key man. I believe that's what the term is a key man liability, which is, although Cameron's the face, they noticed very quickly that Cameron wasn't also the branch manager and billing guy and CMO, where some CEOs are like, well, I don't even have a CMO because I do the marketing too. And that could be perceived, it doesn't change anything. It's just that could be perceived as a key man liability, and that will reduce some of your total payout, because they'll perceive that as, well, if you leave, we're going to have to hire to those positions.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I don't know if it's what you have on, but I need to know, what was your first purchase when the money hit?
Well, the day before, I went and bought lists.
So before Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. You were
on Tuesday, because we're going out to dinner that night.
Oh, that's right.
So I bought Liz and my mom like Cartier bracelets.
Yep.
Like Liz loves that. I bought my mom that. And then I haven't bought anything besides that.
What did someone very close to you, aka your wife, buy you? Basically as a celebratory gift. You got to talk about it.
I got a Rolex.
Okay,
man.
you got a Rolex. Which Rolex is it?
I don't know.
Don't play
man.
dumb. I literally saw the Instagram video. I'm like, he didn't get the Hublot? Like, he left the opportunity
Well, here's the
for
thing
me?
about Hublot is that I guess no one likes them because they don't appreciate. So, like, I guess they're not a good watch.
Like, they don't appreciate them? They're not
Yeah.
grateful for them? Just kidding. I didn't even know that whole world existed with watches. Okay, cool. Because that is something that I hope that you're proud of, and everyone here. Like, we've built this system in a way that, we want people to win, and I think people generally correlate, and they can speculate all they want on amounts, but I love that, like, at least the Instagram video portrayed that, hey, you guys are celebrating as well as you should. But on the topic of wanting everyone to win.
Yeah.
So I've been with you for 7 years at Coconut, 2 years at Green Mango, and I feel like both you and we have a different approach on this principle, but I feel like genuinely both you and I want everyone to win. And even if that does mean like somebody gets a promotion elsewhere, we'll attempt for a day or two to like, hey, like, can we do this for you? They're like, no, okay, great. Hey, like, how can we help you get you set up for success? We don't have a history of poaching anybody's key people, even frontline employees. Yeah, okay, so like a branch manager said, hey, there's this big Facebook group on Facebook that anyone can join if you're in the pest control world. And somebody, a former employee, posted in that chat, like, Green Mango was acquired. No, they posted this week. And the amount of people that liked it, that I know, it was so frustrating for me to like see those images, because I'm like, that person, like the last time I interacted with them, they're like, hey, when can I take you and Cameron golfing? Like, when can I try to, and I'm just like, I texted you because I was a little bummed out because a few other things, and I'm sorry if this is more vague, but how have you dealt with living your life in a way where, for the most part, you try to live it in a way that allows other people around you to win and to succeed? And I will say that, like, that's not an easy path for you or being your partner. I will say that what you've done for people that they may never acknowledge to their friends and family, and giving them kind of the outs of exiting a business without dealing with the, debt or congruent to their equity and things like that is something that, I'll write in a book one day. So real quick, I mean, I feel like that's important because we live in this world of, hey, reach out to people, ask for help, ask for resources. And I feel like the bigger you get, and especially the more effort you've put into social media, you're naturally going to have people reaching out. And what they won't understand that you're willing to give freely is that a lot of the principles that you're going to teach them and share with them freely would cost them in indirect labor or just missing out on the revenue, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And it's not cheap elsewhere. And so I've just been curious as you've gone through this process and as people have heard that, hey, you sold, like, how do you intend to, like, just make sure that you're always around the same people, even in, like, the outside world of Green Mango and PestCo? Just making sure that you're continually evolving and growing and not being surrounded by people that would be so quick to stab you in the back if they had the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a great question. I think that
you're playing pretty soft, right? I will say you're playing pretty soft right now. When I tell you someone did something, you're like, can I reach out to them right now?
Well, here's my thing about that is that I love when you tell me, because I said, hey, I'll always check someone, because what I don't like is when people are fake to me. So you just shared with me a couple pictures of people that liked that comment. And I'm like, they literally text me yesterday saying how happy they are for me and that we need to go hang out soon and all these things. And so, if that person kept calling me, kept texting me, kept hanging out, that's when I'm like, hey, I'm just a little confused. You want to hang out,
just
but
like
I see that you're liking things like happy hunting on Green Mango customers. Like, help me understand like what the correlation is there. And so I always love, healthy conversations of, hey, this is bothering me. I just want to get it out. And if we can get past it, like, let's get past it, but if not, like, let's just save ourselves and not be friends. And that's been really hard to get to that point. But my thing is that at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do the best that they can for what they know. But here's what I live by is, like, karma's a bitch and it'll always come around. So if you're, secretly trying to be fake to me, but you're trying to, play both ends of the spectrum or the field, like, it will come around. And that's why I'm a huge believer of always responding to people and treating people right and like giving them the time of day to hear what they have to offer. And at that point, it's like, okay, like, let's take it from here or not. But I'm always going to respond to you. I'm always going to try and be as kind as I can, because you never know what they're going through or what they're not going through. But that's kind of what, like, I know, because of I've been doing this for 14 years now, especially as I've been more successful the past 5 years. I've kind of seen who is my friend, who's not my friend, who's fake, and who's, all those people. And those are the people that I'll either have a conversation with if I care about them, or if I don't, I just keep them at an arm's length.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously we're 50 minutes into this, and I think we're going to try to make this as this evolves and as questions happen. And honestly, what you've always said is, bro, let's learn from these people and see what we can do elsewhere in terms of application. But overall, you're 2 days fresh of a merger. You're feeling good. Like, what's the next few weeks look like? And, what are you going to be doing?
We're going to your wedding, man.
Oh, that's
Can't
right.
wait for
next
that.
week.
No, I was like looking at my schedule. I'm like, son of a gun. I feel like I'm just as busy as I was. So I'm a busybody. I want to stay busy, but I hope to just kind of like get my feet right over the next couple months. The craziest thing, you work so long, so hard, so many years to get this money. And then once you get it, there's a whole new level of stress of what to do with that money. Yeah. And that's what I'm experiencing right now. So over the next couple of months, I'm vetting, investment bankers and different type of investment strategies. And I want to get that locked down. And then I truly, like, I've had a few text messages to you, like, let's freaking go on coconut. But I'm like, I need to relax and check myself and make sure that's really what I want. You know what I mean? Like, but I think like next year, like, I can't wait. I think we're going to like get into coconut really heavily. And like that's, I don't know. I got to be careful, but I want to spend time with my kids, and I can't sacrifice that. Like, that's been my commitment to my wife, to my kids, is, hey, like, I'm going to be there. Like, yesterday I went to Banks' basketball practice. I've, his private, I coach his basketball practice, but he has privates at 3:00. I've maybe been to 2 of those the past 5 years because it's at 2:00. Yesterday I went to it, and it was a great, like, I had fun, you know? So I want to do those things, but at the same time, I can already feel myself start itching to be like, we got to go blow up Coconut.
Yeah.
Like, we got to do this. We got to make it bigger than Green Mango.
Yeah. Liz texted me just a little note about.
She's good with it.
But I texted her too. I just said, hey, like when you get tired of Cam, like send him my way for Coconut. But obviously, Cam, I love you, man. Excited for you and everything that this entails. And the message for anyone watching Green Mango is like, this thing's about to blow up big. And, you know, we're going to do some cool things. Are you doing anything like, are you making any commitments, trying to like coach or help people, anything like that people can reach out to you for?
The problem is, like, you can't scale it. That's what Lexi and I are talking about. So, you know, I only want to take on 5 consulting clients at once. And
like in a given month or?
Like my commitment to them is right now for a year. It's like 5 clients a year right now. And, but it's like, it's just, you've talked about doing, you know, events, like 1 day, 2 day events. I think, you know, I think that'd be really fun, but it's just, I don't know. Okay. So I want to do something. Again, I'm just kind of trying to like, it's been so crazy the past month with everything I didn't even think about. So now it's like, hey, over the next 2 months, like let's settle down. Let's not jump into anything. Let's make sure I'm doing what I want to do and having fun with it. So
awesome, man. Well, to all the listeners, stay tuned. I mean, everything you do, you know, I think everything we preach and promote, I feel like it's only going to get bigger. So a lot of value coming your way, you know, via Cameron. So it's going to be fun to watch.
The funny part, we can add this or not, but the funny part about like happy hunting is like nothing's changed. Like the retention people are the same, the technicians are the same, the managers are the same. If anything, they're probably gonna have a better retention team and make it better, so it's gonna be harder to take them. Oh, they don't care as much. Oh yeah, right.